Well, it is 7 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 21 in our second ongoing webinar series for federal employees. My name is Jessie Muse, and I am a retirement strategist here at Parco. And I'm joined this evening by my colleagues, Quinn Ackerman and Daniel Hampel, who will be managing our question and answer section during this presentation. I want to thank both of you for being on the call this evening. So for those of you who have been on before, this part will be familiar. We are Parco. This stands for the Pensioned Americans Retirement Company. We're a community of experts who are solely focused on retirement and financial planning for federal employees and retirees. So whether you're just starting your career, you're near retirement, you're still planning, it doesn't matter. We are here to help you strategize and prepare for the future. Our goal is to truly be a one-stop shop by leveraging our knowledge in the federal space, which will help connect you with our services that best fit your needs. That can be insurance, financial advisory, tax preparation and accounting, relocation services, trusts and wills. And now we even will work with you on some mortgage refis, depending on the state you live in. We do like to say that while most feds won't need all of our services, everyone can use us for something. So you may have seen us recently featured in some of the publications you see here below. You've also probably seen us on our Facebook page as well as goparco.com. So for those of you who are new, we do have a couple of ground rules to cover. The first is to let everyone know that we cover a broad range of topics that directly impact federal employees, and each presentation is designed to dive deeper into one specific topic. At the same time, though, we do try to keep our presentations to about 30 minutes because we do want to keep them digestible for everyone on the call. If you have any specific questions about your situation, particularly things that were not covered during the episode, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to assist you one-on-one. Of course, if you do have a burning question that you need answered immediately, we do want you to feel free to ask questions in our Zoom window. And just to let you know that after the webinar, you will receive a survey asking for your feedback. Please be as candid as possible. We're always trying to improve. And in fact, some of the webinar topics that we cover are topics that come as a result of the feedback from these webinars. So don't be shy. All right, let's get started. So tonight's topic is focused specifically on what is called, well, it's not called the Student Loan Forgiveness Program, but it is a forgiveness program specifically for feds. And we want to be able to not only outline some of the important aspects of things to keep in mind as you go through this process, but also to give you some insight as to some unique strategies that you can employ in order to take advantage of this unique benefit. So today's agenda is going to be covering what the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is and who qualifies. We'll also cover the types of loans that are covered, the forgiveness process, steps to take if you don't qualify, and pretty importantly, some COVID-19 ramifications. As we all know, this has continued to be a challenge, and so we wanted to make sure we included this for your benefit this evening. So first off, what is the PSLF and who qualifies? The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program arose from the College Cost Reduction and Access Act of 2007, and it's a federal program that is designed to ease the student loan burden for civil servants. And these civil servants who qualifies, we start with government organizations. So at the top level, you have your federal folks, full-time, federal civilians, and service members. So this does include members of the military, your state and local government organizations, so full-time civil servants. We do want to note here that if you were a teacher This only counts if you were a teacher for the public school system, as they do count as government employees. And this also includes tribal. So if you were a full-time tribal government employee, you are also covered under this, under the PSLF. In addition to this, and this is a little known fact, is that that not-for-profit organizations are actually covered. We do talk about this in terms of feds, but many of you may have had prior experience at other organizations before you got into your federal career. And so if you worked at a not-for-profit organization that was tax exempt, it automatically qualifies. However, if it was a not-for-profit that was not tax exempt, it needs to have what is called a qualifying public service. And this includes actually a pretty wide breadth of different types of qualifying services. But at the top level, we would think about emergency management, public safety, law enforcement, so that could be crime prevention or enforcement of criminal law, public law interest services, early childhood education, including licensed and regulated childcare, Head Start, and state-funded pre-kindergarten programs, public library services, school libraries, or other school-based services are included in here. And probably most importantly to include specifically for what's going on with COVID, right, is this also includes public health individuals such as nurses, nurse practitioners, nurses in a clinical setting, folks who have been working with the elderly or folks with disabilities. And again, to reiterate it, is if you are working for a not-for-profit organization that is non-taxable or non-tax exempt. So there's one small caveat we wanted to include for AmeriCorps and Peace Corps volunteers. Many of you may have, if you did work for either of these, if you were in either of these spaces, to have the Department of Defense pay for some of your loans in a lump sum amount. If you are planning on pursuing a PSLF application, do not select anything that would cancel or remove this payment. This direct lump sum payment can qualify towards the payments needed in order to complete your PSLF payment qualifications. And a quick note about government contractors. So you may be saying, I work for an organization or a company that contracts with the government, and that counts, right? Well, we just need to be careful here because there's a difference between who your employer is and who they are contracting with. So what is most important is to look at who your employer is. So if your employer falls under that tax exempt or that non-tax exempt with the qualifying public services, or is possibly some offshoot branch maybe of a government entity, that is what will make your employment as a government contractor count towards the PSLF. So the status that matters is what your employer is, not the fact that they are contracting with an organization that qualifies. So what types of loans are covered under the PSLF? The William D. Ford direct federal loans, or federal direct loans, falls under these 4 categories. If you have a direct subsidized loan, unsubsidized loan, a direct plus loan, or any direct consolidation loans. And these plus loans right here in the middle, item 3, these are for if you went to graduate school. So this is typically for graduate school programs pursuing beyond your bachelor's degree. Loans that do not qualify. So if at one point in time you had what was called the FFELP, or a federal family education loan, that does not qualify. The Perkins loans do not qualify. Any private student loans do not qualify. And unfortunately, traditional Parent Plus loans do not qualify either. And later on in the presentation, because we do know that there are some folks who may have carried a Parent Plus loan for their child, we will go over ways to get around some of this. It may be one of the reasons why in the past you may have applied for the PSLF and did not qualify. So we will be getting into that. So what does the forgiveness process look like? Well, first of all, you have to be eligible. And in order to do so, there's these three pieces. You have to make 120 qualifying payments. That's 10 years of qualifying payments. These payments had to have occurred on or after October of 2007. And you must be actively working for your qualified employer. Now, a lot of folks ask, that's 120 qualifying payments over 10 years. That's a long time. Am I able to speed this up at all? And the answer to that is no, you are not. You have to, if you are choosing to make payments in advance, or you want to try to pay down the loan faster, what the Department of Education will end up doing is spreading out that lump sum payment over the months that it should have been paid. So for example, if you made a lump sum payment in March for 3 months worth of a loan payment, what will happen is for March, April, and May, you will see that you will not owe any payments. And then in June, you will see that a payment is owed again. So there's not a way to expedite this process. So how do you make sure that your payments qualify? You need to be covered under what is called the income-driven repayment plan. And it's pretty self-explanatory in the sense that your income, the money that you make, your earned income will determine what type of payment plan you qualify for. And this has 5 categories, but we're going to review 4 of them. The first is called the revised pay-as-you-earn repayment plan. And that one will allow you to pay as you are earning. So essentially, think of it as the money comes in to your bank account, at that point in time, you will then make that payment. And if your income changes at any point in time, or your earnings change at any point in time, they will adjust the monthly payment to reflect that amount. The pay-as-you-earn repayment plan has been phased out. That's why we're not talking about it. And we talked about the revised one. Income-based repayment plan, or the IBR, is the most common one that we come across. And essentially what it says is, based on how much you are earning at a gross level, they will then work backwards and determine what your monthly payment should be. So you can think about the pay-as-you-go plan is based on your monthly earnings, and the income-based is based on your gross earnings. And then the income contingent repayment plan, or the ICR, is based on whether or not you anticipate that your income is going to change over time. So this might work out for folks who work in these positions in the federal government where they have overtime. So if your gross income is changing over time just as a result of overtime pay, you may fall in this particular category. If you have if you are ever presented with these 4 types of repayment plans, the standard one, the standard repayment plan, the graduated repayment plan, your extended repayment plan, or the alternative repayment plan, these payment types do not qualify as PSLF payments. So in what situation might this happen? So let's say that you were on an income-driven repayment plan, and then your income changed drastically enough that then you were considered under the standard repayment plan. So then if you are moved into that category and you start making payments at that time under that type of a plan, those payments will not count towards the PSLF total number of payments. So let's say, you've got your income-based repayment plan, and now you want to figure out what the next steps are. The first thing you want to do is utilize what's called the PSLF self-help tool. What this will do is walk you through everything, all the information that they need, like the agency you work for, social security number, your income, and it'll help you pre-fill some forms that then you will print out and fill in the remainder yourself and take to your agency to then have them sign off on it. Once you have done that, the submission process, you can do two things. You can either go online to the service provider site, and you would have that information provided to you via email, or you can choose to mail or fax it into the Department of Education. The studentaid.gov website lists the address. It is based in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, as well as the fax number. So of course, the question everyone wants to ask is, how do you know if you're approved? Well, the Department of Education will notify you once you've been approved. And so one thing to keep in mind is that if you are making payments on your loan currently, so let's say you haven't, gone into the PSLF, you haven't gone into PSLF yet, you've been told you have to make payments. Any payments you continue to make will only be qualified payments after approval. So even if you are in process and you're making payments, those will not count until the approval has been passed and you've been notified. One of the most important things about staying qualified for the PSLF is the recertification process. So you're going to make your payments every month. You're going to then request a letter from your employer on an annual basis and have your HR certifying official sign and resubmit this form. The reason why this is so important is if you do not recertify for the PSLF, again, if you continue to make those payments will not count, and you will need an extra however many months may have gone by. And so it is recommended that about 4 months prior to recertification, you start looking, either checking your email or making sure that if you have gotten a notification from your loan service provider, that you are getting that to your certifying official in an expeditious manner. So steps to take if you haven't qualified in the past. The reason this is so important and why we wanted to do this is because we know that it can be a very challenging process. And so we want to share with you a couple of things that you can do in order to see if you can qualify moving forward. The first is to collect information from previous jobs. Again, at the very beginning of the call, at the beginning of this webinar, we had talked about how some people may not have known that certain types of service would have qualified. And so maybe you were not qualified because you did not submit all information. And one thing to note is that when you're filling out the form, it doesn't outline necessarily as, please list all not-for-profit, or please list all, military service. So it just may be a question of you didn't know that you needed to submit more documentation, and this may end up pushing you through the gates. The second is to just resubmit your information to PSLF. And the reason why this, is separate from collecting your information from previous jobs is because, sometimes the submission process is not as clean as they would like it to be. Unfortunately, there's of course been a lot of challenges that the Department of Education has been having. And so it is very possible that you may have submitted a 10-page document, but only 9 made it through. And so sometimes just resubmitting the forms when you are eligible to reapply can do the trick. And lastly, calling PSLF in terms of some of these direct things that you can do. Do it via phone as opposed to the email or the chat bot that might pop up on the screen. They do have live folks who are working with your account. And again, sometimes it is just a question of this person may not be able to see everything. And so talking them through may help. In addition, if there's a document that you are saying should be there, and it is not, that person can tell you, we don't see this document. And so then you have the opportunity to resubmit it. So being able to talk to someone directly may be able to, again, push you through the gates. So we've saved the concept of consolidating loans at this point because as you can see, it's a much more involved process. And there are a few caveats that we want to make sure that we address. So first, you're going to look at the accounts, like maybe some of the ones that we talked about before, if you had a Federal Perkins loan or a Parent Plus loan, or some of the loans that originally did not qualify you can now bring them to consolidate them here into a direct consolidation loan. And so once you have logged into each account, you can then locate the loan's official number, include the numbers in the request form, and submit it to the Department of Education. Typically, you receive an access code within, a few minutes. If not, it may just take a little while. And by a little while, we mean maybe an hour, or the email hasn't refreshed. And what this allows you to do is check your application status. It is not immediate. It is not like applying for a credit card necessarily, where you just sort of find out right away whether or not you qualified. If you've submitted documents, particularly for things that for loan types that may have been phased out, it may take them a little bit longer to figure that out. Lastly, you'll be issued a new loan number after it has been approved. Unfortunately, there's not a set time that you can expect in order to say, well, I've submitted my application. How long should I be waiting until I'll get approved? It varies depending on your situation. Certainly, if you've submitted, for 10 different ones, that might take a little bit longer than someone who's maybe submitting for 2. The last thing we want to note on this slide is the fact that if you have already started paying on a direct loan, do not consolidate all of the loans into one loan. The reason is your clock for the 10 years will restart. For example, if you already had a subsidized direct loan that did qualify for PSLF, and you've decided you want to consolidate your Perkins and a Parent Plus loan, you do not have to consolidate those 2 new loans into your original subsidized loan that already qualified. That unsubsidized loan will then start over. So essentially think of it as 2 different contracts. Continue to make your payments on the first loan that was already approved, and this new consolidated direct loan will count as a second piece. So, we promised we'd talk about the Parent Plus loans. Parent Plus loans they may not be repaid under the income-driven repayment plans, and that is what disqualifies them. And so the easiest and most efficient way to be able to get them included in your PSLF is to consolidate these loans on behalf of your child, that you took on behalf of your child. So under the new direct consolidation loan, that will then allow you to have an income-driven repayment plan. And that one will also qualifies as one of the income contingent repayment plans. So that's another example of one where it may not fall under the other categories. That's why it's a special category. If you are offered the opportunity to select the revised pay-as-you-earn or the income-based repayment plans, do not select those, because you cannot repay your direct consolidated loan and qualify for PSLF for a Parent Plus loan. You must select an income contingent repayment plan. So last but not least, what are some COVID-19 considerations? So the key details of this is that loan forbearance is set to expire on the 1st of January in 2022. So if you have not been making any payments towards your loans as a result of the loan forbearance, know that will be starting up again in 2022. Non-payment in forbearance does count towards forgiveness. So even though it is a $0 repayment, it does count as a payment. So again, we talked about that earlier, where if you were trying to make payments when there was a 0 payment, all it's doing is adding forward onto future months. It's not paying for the month that you're paying for. So those $0 repayment months are counting. The loan forbearance has been extended before. It is possible that they may extend it again. And certainly that would be something that if you spoke to one of our representatives or one of our strategists, that would be something that we would alert anyone to if they were looking for that support from us. So Parco strategists and fiduciaries that work with us, we are here to help. So as you can see, we covered a lot of topics regarding the loan in an extended period, in a very short amount of time. And so what we really want to make sure that everyone is aware of is that, there are several things that we can all do to help. One of the things that we are incredibly excited about is the fact that we do like to make sure that we always cite our sources. We all went to school, we learned that that was something important. And so if you ever want any more information on anything that we have been pulling for our webinars, we do offer works cited just so that you can see that. And a fantastic announcement for those of you who may not have known before is that our webinar portal is now live. So if you scan this QR code or go to www.goparco.com/members, you will be able to access our library of many of the webinars that we have done in the past. This was something, again, that came up on one of our webinar sheets. Someone provided that feedback for us. So again, we do take it seriously when folks do make suggestions. We want to make sure that everyone's getting the information that they need. It is not a difficult sign up. You just put your email in there or sign up via Google, and you'll get that access pretty much immediately. So some upcoming webinar topics we have will be on the survivor benefit. Is it overpriced or undervalued? Taxes, some concepts that feds need to be aware of as they consider whether they're still working or in retirement, the impact of taxes. We're really excited to work on to present on a mortgage refinance when we would want folks to consider it. And just a reminder that the last Sunday of every month, we do offer a retirement paperwork workshop. This may be helpful for those of you who've been looking forward to being able to finally file that paperwork. So we do a walkthrough of that. That's also, of course, something that if you reach out to one of our strategists, they would be more than happy to help you with that as well. So thank you everyone for taking some time to sit with us tonight and learn a little bit more about this student loan forgiveness program. We really hope that it was helpful to you. If you need to reach out, please email us at info@goparco.com. You can call us at 833-GO-PARCO or visit our website anytime at goparco.com. You can also see we've included our QR code here on the right in case somebody missed it on the previous slide. Thank you all again for spending some time with us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a wonderful evening.